Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name is Ethan McDowell. I am here as I am twice a week with Noah Fleischman. We're here, obviously, to talk about NC State's loss to Tennessee, a 51-10 dominant effort by the Volunteers. This one from midway through the second quarter wasn't particularly close. The Volunteers won this one wire to wire over the Wolfpack. NC State struggled on offense, and had the defense had to deal with a short field against one of the nation's most high up tempo, quickest, explosive offenses, and that just didn't mesh well. It was a potential statement game for NC State, and they fell short. And we're going to talk about what went wrong, what we saw on both sides of the ball, and where we see the season going from here. Before we do that, just want to mention that we're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. We're going to get into our thoughts and our analysis of this game. There's a lot more content up on the Wolfpacker.com right now. We talked to Dave Dorn. We talked to Grayson McCall and Sean Brown after the game, got their thoughts on the loss. And we have a report card up. We have PFF grades and snap counts if you want to see how the plays worked out with NC State using some unusual alignments on defense. So that's all up there on the Wolfpacker.com. Go check it out right now and subscribe, and we'll really appreciate it. All right, Noah, let's talk about some football. Obviously, not the most cheerful night around the Wolfpack. I'll start by saying awesome night in Charlotte. NC State fans really showed up. I'd say it's like a 55-45 split in favor of Tennessee fans, but both fan bases really showed out. Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte was packed. It's a really fun atmosphere for a football game. Unfortunately, it wasn't particularly close. Noah, what were your thoughts on NC State's first setback of the season?
First, as you said, the atmosphere was great, for the first half until people started leaving from the NC State side, which was across the field from us. Tennessee was in front of us. But overall, that was a good part about the game. When you look at it, NC State was doing well at the beginning. 7-0 after the first quarter, a lot of people would have taken. And a lot of people probably still felt good about their things. But the game unraveled pretty quick. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a second. Overall, NC State, Tennessee, is a elite team. This is a team that we're probably going to see in the college football playoff at the end of the year. They're that good. Their defensive line is that good. Yeah. They got a quarterback that's better beyond his years as a redshirt freshman. And they've got wideouts that can make plays. And we saw all that this weekend. But overall, NC State kind of didn't rise to the occasion. It was an opportunity, as you said, to make a statement, to put itself on the map as a contender for the college football playoff this year. It didn't. It's not the end of the world that they didn't win the game, but it's the way that the game went does not inspire confidence in a lot of people around the program. Not inside the program, but people outside the program looking at it. Not too confident about it. Dave Dorn said after the game, they've got a lot of work to do. That was kind of the theme post-game, and this game showed. If it's a measuring stick, they are nowhere close to being the team that they want to be this year that can contend at an elite level. Right now, people were mentioning when back in his Charlotte press conference, a month ago, when he said they don't want to be good, they want to be great. Well, NC State wasn't either of those against Tennessee, unfortunately, and a 41-point loss kind of proved that.
Yeah, I feel like we got on this podcast last week, and we're actually fairly optimistic about the team's outlook after the Western Carolina win, because we could dismiss some of the issues as first game jitters or just so many new players coming in on both sides of the ball. I think this game proved that those concerns were legitimate. The concerns about running the ball were legitimate. The concerns about Grayson McCall's play were legitimate. And now you're looking at a team where it's like, all right, not only are you not going to take the leap that a lot of, internally, I think they expected to take this year. You invest so much into this roster, this coaching staff, this program in general over the past couple of years to kind of lead up to this season. Very winnable schedule across the board. You're bringing a ton of transfer talent, a ton of freshman talent. It looked like it could all come together this year, and it still could. But this Tennessee loss showed that the NC State is not ready to make that leap. They are not ready to make that jump as a program yet. Could they still be as good as the NC State programs we've seen over the last few years, where, an 8-9 win team, which, to be clear, is a very good college football team. That is not success to take for granted by any stretch of the imagination. And could they get back to that? Yeah, of course. Again, very easy schedule down the stretch here where we're going to talk about it. But are they going to take the leap as an ACC contender or a college football playoff team? I mean, I think even the most optimistic NC State fans would tell you no at this point, right? Like they need to take very serious steps forward to get to that point, to put itself in a spot to, make that leap again. NC State was on the precipice of, they were right there, and they just need that. Even they didn't even need to win this game necessarily. If they just played a close one, right, Noah? It's like if it had just been competitive, but this wasn't competitive. It wasn't even close to competitive. So, I mean, it's going to take a couple weeks, right? In a couple weeks, they're going to go to Death Valley. They're going to play Clemson. And we're going to find out a lot about the team. We're going to see how the team plays with its back against the wall. It's something we've said the past 2 years about Dave Doran's squads, and usually they respond really well. But I'm getting sidetracked a little on the big picture, man. Let's focus back in on the Tennessee game. Let's talk about the start because I actually thought the start was pretty good. I thought the game plan they came out with was really strong. NC State got the ball first and was content to possess the ball and hold it, something we talked about going into the game. They were going to have to control the tempo of that game, or at least try to, against this really, really fast Tennessee offense. And they did a great job of it on the first drive. They possessed it for almost 6 minutes and 49 seconds. Yeah, 6 minutes, 49 seconds on that first opening drive, 12 plays. It ended in a punt, but you still saw NC State move the ball, and they got KC Concepcion involved early. They didn't have much success on the ground, a trend that certainly troubled the Pack all game. But they were kind of substituting the quick passing game for that, and it was working. And then, I mean, they had that drive went 12 plays, like I said. They didn't have a drive that went longer than 6 for the rest of the game. They possessed the ball for almost 7 minutes on that drive. They didn't have a drive that lasted longer than 3 for the rest of the game. That drive was, quite frankly, an anomaly for the way the rest of that game went, and they didn't even come up with points. Noah, you have anything else to add on the offensive side of what we saw on that first drive? Any thoughts you had, or if not, feel free to talk about the defense, because we were both talking in the press box during the game that they showed some pretty cool stuff early in the game.
Yeah, the offense, I mean, we talk about 12 plays, 29 yards in 12 plays. It's not a big amount of plays, but it showed that they were able to generate rhythm, quick passing. The run game wasn't working, didn't work for basically the entire night, but it showed, the game plan's working. Get the ball to KC, which was the game plan a lot of last year. Seemed to be the game plan going in, and it worked. He had 3 catches on the drive. They moved the ball down the field. They started 3 for 3 on third down, looked efficient for the most part, and was like, okay. Fell apart after that. 4 3 and outs in the game. A lot of drives where there's some 4-play drives in there. They got 1 first down and they couldn't do anything else. NC State did have a promising drive going in the second quarter. 5 plays, 59 yards, got down to the Tennessee 16-yard line before pick 6, which turned the game on its head. Defensively, though, interesting way they attacked Tennessee. Tennessee previously showed that it will split out 3-4 wide receivers at a time, play fast, play quick, go downfield. Tony Gibson attacks it by playing a dime package for the whole first half. Devon Betty's on the sideline. They put in Corey Coley. How does Tennessee enter? They play with big boys. They put 12 personnel in. 2 tight ends play, and that's how they combated it, and it worked. And Tennessee was able to have its way with NC State's defense as the game wore on. They had, 1, 2, 3. There was a stretch from 9 minutes and 4 seconds left in the second quarter to 4 minutes and 45 seconds left in the third quarter. 5 straight scoring drives for Tennessee. 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns. That wins the game for them right there, outside of the other couple touchdowns they scored. But overall, game plans were working. NC State, I guess, it tried to adjust to defense. Couldn't catch up by that point. Tennessee had the momentum going, and it was downhill from there. But overall, the coaching staff knew what would have worked. It just didn't stick to it, especially offensively. I think was the biggest one that was kind of interesting. They kind of went away from going to KC. Kind of went away from the passing game. Once things started getting off the rail, they started to force it a little bit, and the running game never got established, which was important in this whole quick passing game, is to have a run game going too.
Yeah, I mean, even in the first quarter when things were going for the most part good for the offense, Jordan Waters had 4 carries for -10 yards, and McCall had 2 for -5. The team had -15 yards rushing. So even when things were clicking a little bit, and you mentioned it, the offense, it looked a lot different the rest of the game than it did on the first drive. I was a little curious why there was just less of the quick passing game as we got later on into the game, but when you go down 3 scores in the second quarter, the game plan kind of goes out the window to an extent. So I understand kind of why the offense changed right there. And you mentioned the defense and coming out with the dime package, and I thought that was cool. I thought that was a cool wrinkle that Tony Gibson threw at the Volunteers, and it worked. You create a turnover, you force a stop, hold them to a field goal, I believe, or an early score. So I think that was cool, but they Heupel countered with the counter that made the most sense, and he went for 12 personnel and said they're going to run it down their throat. This is the SEC's best rushing offense from last year. They can run the ball, and they didn't have much 12 personnel on film. Is basically what Doran said after the game, is that they did some stuff like that just wasn't on film. So that's how they beat the Pack, and that's how they ran for 249 yards, averaged 5.7 yards per rush. And I mean, let's get into the snowballing effect, because that kind of has a lot to do with it. As you can see in the title, that's kind of what this game looked like. It was a snowball. Once things got bad, they got bad. This is the worst I've seen a game unravel in the past few years for NC State. Even against Duke last year, that game got ugly for sure, but there was still life in the team, and they were still playing hard. And not to say they stopped playing hard in this game, but it was just over by the middle of the third quarter, it felt like. No, let's talk about the interception. The pick 6 by McCall. They were driving down. They could have tied the game with the touchdown there. And then McCall kind of moved out to his right, I believe it was an RPO, and tries to find Justin Jolie, floats it a little too over him and into the hands of a Tennessee defender, ends in an interception, runs it back for a touchdown. Eerily reminiscent of the interception in the first game, I thought. And then Noah, what happens from there, man? Because it just got ugly.
Yeah, I mean, it just gets bad after that. I mean, Tennessee, kind of that, as I think I put in the story, it was one of those things. It was a punch that NC State couldn't get off the mat, right? It was a swing. That's at least a 10-point swing, because you can't guarantee NC State scores a touchdown. They can at least get a field goal. They're on the 16-yard line. That's at least 3 points. You're down at least 10-6 going to the break. But Tennessee is able to do that. They go into the halftime locker room, come back out, and score again. And score again. And score again. They scored 17 unanswered in the third quarter, which kind of put the game away. Made it 37-3 before Aiden White can get a 87-yard pick 6 on a drive that at Tennessee looked like it was going to score again. It was kind of one of those things that Tennessee's offense kind of got rolling, started adding up, and once a team gets hot like that, it's kind of really hard to get back from it. And that's what NC State found out about. But it's one of those things where the first half wasn't as bad as it may have seemed.
Oh, no.
But the second after halftime, the third quarter is really where the game got out of hand. When they went down 37-3, 34 points, it's a lot to make up in, a quarter and a half. And NC State looked defeated. They still played to the whistle. Yeah. But, Tennessee was able to seal the deal in the fourth quarter with 2 more touchdowns. And you get out of there with a win. And NC State left with a sour taste in its mouth. And I think we could see a big change this week. They're going to have to learn, as you talked about earlier, This was an opportunity to make a statement. They did not. They have another chance. Luckily for them, it's in 2 weeks. Now it's time to focus on Louisiana Tech, not looking ahead. That was kind of the thing that maybe people thought Western Carolina was a fluke because they were looking ahead to Tennessee. Well, we saw what happened, so we'll see what happens. But overall, things went from bad to worse really quick. And it's what happens when you play a team that plays fast and scores a lot of points.
What kind of change would you want to see? You mentioned there could be a big change. Part of the reason why I'm pretty pessimistic about this result for me personally is because it seems like I'm not sure how much NC State really can change about this team. So in your opinion, what could they really do over the next couple of weeks to make sure they're in a better spot when they go to Clemson?
Two things you can do. One is use the playmakers you went out and got. Noah Rogers has gone 2 games and with 1 catch in each game, I believe. He had 1 catch
Yeah.
against Tennessee, 1 for 7 yards. That's a guy that's a former 5-star talent. 6'2", 6'3" outside receiver that can move down the field, run routes extremely well. They obviously the game plan was to have short passing, so that's not going to really bode well for his skill set. But still, they didn't really try to look for him. He was only targeted twice, made 1 catch. And you look at that, I think they could involve Justin Jolie more in the past game. He did have 4 catches for 30 yards. And the second thing is the offensive line hasn't looked great in either game. And is it a point to where they kind of ran into this problem last year where it wasn't looking great? They shook it up and it worked by shaking it up. Is a shake up week 3 going to happen? Maybe, maybe not. But NC State is only one of, I think, like 10 or 12 FBS teams that have played with the same starting 5 offensive linemen in both games. So that's something that's kind of interesting to note with having their linemen playing like consistent snaps together, which should work. This was a team that had 4 offensive linemen coming back from a year ago, adding a Notre Dame transfer center, Zeke Correll, who left the game early with an injury. Unclear on his status. We'll hopefully find out more this week. But it might come down to a point, Ethan, of shaking up the offensive line a little bit. Also, Matt McCabe at tight end could come down to he might just not be ready for it yet. We'll see. They could try to put Dante Daniels. Could even go Justin Jolie as an inline tight end and let him block more. They will involve him in the pass game. And then also bring Juice Farine more into the pass game too. So we'll see. Not a whole lot you can change in a 2-week stretch. You can also hope that Grayson McCall finds his footing at NC State. Yes, he threw for 314 yards in week 1. Wasn't the most pretty in most people's eyes. And then this week, 104 yards with a pick 6. He's obviously beating himself up afterwards. He's really focused. I think wants to prove people wrong and wants to just prove himself that he can do it. I think that's the biggest thing. So we'll see what they can do. But a week-to-week improvement is what Dave Dorn wants to see. They didn't see it from Western Carolina to Tennessee, and now it's kind of imperative for them to see it moving forward.
Yeah. No Rogers did catch 3 for 43 in the season opener, but I totally get your point. In a game like this, you got to find ways to get him involved. He's a former 5-star recruit. He's one of, if not the most talented players on the team, right? Him and KC probably. So definitely got to get him more involved. Wesley Grimes as well. And then, the 3 true freshman wide receivers, I don't think any of them had a touch. So we'll see. That's just a lot of talent that's just not getting utilized. So I get the point. But I mean, nothing was working for NC State. I'm sure they tried stuff to try to get these playmakers the ball against the Volunteers. But when you're, putting yourself in 3rd and longs, 4th and longs, you're not staying ahead of the sticks, averaging 2.9 yards per play for the night. No, I mean, Tennessee outscored NC State on NC State's red zone possession, 7-3.
Yeah, and you know what else Tennessee did? They operated in NC State's end of the field a lot more than NC State operated. 66% of Tennessee snaps came on NC State's side of the 50. NC State only had 28% of their snaps on Tennessee's side. That, I think, tells you the difference in the game right there. NC State offense had long fields to go. Short defense had to defend short fields. In a game against a team that could score quick and in a hurry, it's kind of the worst-case scenario of field position, and that's what happened.
And someone asked Dorn, I can't remember who, but someone asked Dorn about that post-game. And he was like, how do you win he was talking about how you can win when you have that field position disadvantage, and he was like, it's basically impossible when you're just dealing with those short fields constantly, and your offense is backed up, and the opposing offense is starting in plus territory. It's just, yeah, you're not going to win very many football games like that. So, I mean, it was just all out domination from the Volunteers. Really, it just wasn't particularly close after the snowball started to roll. Um, you know, penalties hurt the Pack too. They had a couple, pre-snap penalties. Something that Doran kept talking about in the week leading up to this game was that he seemed very proud that there were no pre-snap penalties, and they had a few in this game. They had 2 personal foul penalties on kickoffs. Like,
one that cost them 15 yards.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, in a game where the offense isn't working and the defense has been dealing with short fields all day, you can't afford those mistakes. Those are critical mental errors that really, really hurt the Pack, and you got to clean those up, especially when you can't rely on an explosive passing game or reliable rushing attack to make up for those errors.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. When you look at the explosive play, difference in this one,
Yeah.
it was kind of wild. Tennessee had 15 for 342 yards in the game. NC State had 6 for 96 yards. So, I mean, everything you can look at is going to favor Tennessee. It was just kind of that kind of day. NC State was also stuffed on 46% of its rushing attempts against the defensive line. Is really, really good. As we said, could not run the ball. Hollywood Smothers, though, I will say, ran the ball well yet again for a second week in a row. He had 2 back-to-back runs, a 15-yard run and a 12-yard run on that drive that ended in a pick 6. That was looking really good. And I was like, they might stick with that hot hand. They did. They gave him, I think, 3 straight carries before they took him out just to get a break. And he's a guy that's run really well. I think through the first 2 weeks on the offensive side of the ball, I've been really impressed with him as a newcomer.
You know what? That is a perfect chance to segue into our game balls discussion. We're each going to just recognize, because we've been very negative today. We are going to just highlight a couple individual performances that we did think stood out. And Hollywood's definitely mine. Like you said, first 2 weeks, he looks so explosive, elusive, good vision, good patience, but not like too patient. Like, he's hitting the hole when it's there. So I think he has done a really, really good job. His Wolfpack career is off to an outstanding start, except for the kickoff return. There's a really weird bounce that Tennessee, one of Tennessee's kickoffs, took and hit it like the 5-yard line and then bounced backwards. So props to Tennessee special teams there, I guess. But other than that, he had a really, really good day. I thought just decisive runner, not shying away from contact, but also very elusive. So Hollywood putting it together in his home city. I cannot believe that KC, Hollywood, and Tennessee star edge rusher James Pierce Jr. were all on the same high school team. That is ridiculous. That is a lot of talent for a high school football team. But yeah, he definitely gets my game ball for this week. Just looking forward to seeing how they continue to involve him in the offense. And with his explosiveness, wouldn't be surprised to see him be a serious factor and a big-time playmaker in the return game.
For sure. I think that, all works well and what he can do. And I think I'll give mine to Casey. Obviously, 5 catches, 53 yards, led the team in receiving yards. He was the offense that when he was going well, the offense was going well, especially on that first drive, 3 catches for 20 yards, had a third down conversion on that as well. Kind of disappeared late in the game. Weren't able to go quick pass into him anymore, and they kind of fell apart. So I'll give it to him. He's obviously one of the most elite players on this NC State roster, and he did what he could against a Tennessee defense that was obviously keyed in on trying to take him out.
Yeah, I thought the kind of trick play thing where they lined up in the odd formation, had offensive linemen split out wide, and motioned him into the middle and sent him on a seam route. I thought that was cool. That was a cool play call. And yeah, in games like that, you have to find creative ways to get your best player the ball. And I felt like they did that early. And then once you couldn't do the quick passing game and you were trying to pass downfield, but you couldn't protect the quarterback really long enough to generate any downfield passing. It was just recipe for disaster for NC State's offense. And like I said, when the offense looked good, it was usually when KC was doing well. How many times did we say that last year? We said it last week, even.
Yeah.
So we'll just see how this offense continues to grow and develop, but it just has clear steps it needs to take before it's the upper tier offense in the ACC that I kind of expected it to be going into the year. All right, let's talk about the future. Last week, I think we were both decidedly talking about how we didn't think anything we saw against Western Carolina really influenced our expectations for the season. This game's a little bit different, just the nature in which they lost. I picked them to lose going into the season. I picked them to lose in the days leading up to the game. I did not think NC State was going to win this game. I did think it was going to be competitive. And I still think NC State is a very good football team. It's just not clicking right now. Noah, from week 0 to the end of week 2, how have your expectations changed or not changed in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think this is a team that I think it's gonna really change my mind or not change my mind this coming week against Louisiana Tech. Week 3, I think, is gonna be big in that expectation category. But obviously, playing this uncompetitive against a team that's really good, that you want to kind of be at that level, was concerning. So I definitely think that a 9-3 is still on the table. 10-2 is on the table too. I mean, anything's on the table right now. But when you look at how they've played the last 2 weeks, yes, the ACC is wide open, but they're gonna have to step it up a little bit to make it to Charlotte again.
Yeah,
at the end of the season.
Yeah,
like you can't play. They can't play like that and go on the road to Georgia Tech. It's probably not going to go. A lot of time between now and Georgia Tech, that in November. But overall, I think the expectations 9-3, 10-2 still there. I mean, heck, they could make the ACC title game. This has nothing to do with making the ACC title game, which I think is a positive for NC State. Was big in their hopes of earning an at-large to the CFP, if that is their goal, to make it to this college football playoff. And this hurts it. This was a key chance. In basketball, we talk about the resume opportunities. Well, this was a big resume opportunity that missed. So is the college football playoff attainable? Yes, it is still. There's still a pathway there. This just makes it a little bit harder to get to. But this week, I think, is going to be the week to see if they really learned for the past 2 weeks or not. If they can adjust and come out and play a dominant game against Louisiana Tech, I think people might feel pretty good about going to Clemson. If it's a game they squeak out like Western Carolina and they play it again against Louisiana Tech, people may not be as confident going to Clemson. So it's a big week, I think, personally, just looking ahead to it. But all of their goals are on the table. They can still go 11-1 in all reality and make it to Charlotte again and hopefully win their first game in Charlotte since 2015, I believe, 2012. It's been a while since they've won at Bank of America Stadium. So,
yeah, all of the goals are certainly attainable. I think, and that was also kind of like the tone of post game. It was like, all right, like one game, like Sean Brown said, like this one game isn't going to define our season. That was kind of a theme last year at points as well. And NC State in general is good at not letting losses kind of compound and snowball into each other. It really hasn't happened since 2019 when things got really ugly down the stretch of that year. But I think that anyone in that locker room on that coaching staff would be the first one to tell you that, yes, their goals are reachable. Right now, they're nowhere close to being a team that's, ACC championship caliber, right? Like they're just going to have to take a lot of steps forward. Are they capable of taking those steps? Yeah. I saw a lot of, consternation on our message board on Twitter about coaching concerns, like game plan concerns. Like, I don't think that was really the issue in this game. I know folks are going to disagree, and that's fine. But that didn't strike me as the issue in this game. We've talked about what the issues were. I think they have the staff that can coach this program to another, 8-9 win season, maybe even a shot for 10. I'm not ruling that out. And I think they have the talent to do it. We just need to see that talent come together more, and the coaches continue to put them in positions to succeed. And over the past couple of years, even when their backs are against the wall, we've seen NC State football come together, string together wins, even when they started to get doubted more and more. I wrote it in my column after the game. It's just now we just have to wait and see how another Dave Doran-led team is going to respond to serious adversity. Usually they respond really good, Noah. We'll see how it unfolds over the next few weeks, but definitely some troubling signs coming out of that game. Definitely, not how you want that game to go, but goals are still in front of them. They just need to, pull things together before ACC play starts in a couple weeks in Death Valley. All right, folks, that's it for the Wolfpacker Show today. We appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll see you in a few days to preview Louisiana Tech. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this game once we have an update on Zeke Correll's availability going forward. The potential for him missing time would definitely adjust my expectations for this season. So we'll come back Wednesday, hopefully with an update on him and just some more thoughts on where NC State's at right now going into the last 10 games of their season. But we appreciate you all listening and watching, and we'll see you soon.